What's going on, Dragon Ballers? Back with another video. This time I want to talk to you guys about the top boss monsters I feel are going to be very strong going into set 4. So what a boss monster really is a giant win condition. Basically, you establish this giant monster that usually costs a decent amount of investment, and the payoff is huge. So in DBS we see a lot of that. So I kind of want to go over the ones that I think are going to be the strongest going into set 4. So we'll get right into it. So off the bat, we've got the new secret rare Demigra. So this card is ultimate, which means you can only contain one copy of it in your deck. It is a Dark Overwhelm 7, which means you have to have 7 black cards in your drop in order to summon this for 5 energy. Otherwise, you can drop it for 10, but that is very, very suboptimal. So triple strike means it's a great finisher. 40k body means it's almost always going to kill your opponent unless they negate it. And its auto is really what makes it an incredible boss monster. So when this card attacks, your opponent reveals their hand. So you get knowledge of their hand. Choose up to 4 battle cards from it and combo with them in your combo area. So even if your opponent negates this attack, you still are ripping 4 battle cards from their hand. So it's an incredible late game blow. A lot of decks are not going to be able to recover from that. Now moving on to blue, we have the Ultimate Evil Majin Buu. Buuhan is a tier 1 deck. That is just the way it is. Buuhan is absolutely incredible. The amount of aggro it can put on you is insane. It can clear your active battle cards with the 7-drop Buu, which these two Boos really go hand in hand. And it is able to aggro incredibly well. And it usually is played with SS3 leader, so its defensive capabilities are absolutely incredible, which is great going into this new aggro format. You can play a lot of great defensive cards like Unbreakable Spirits on Goku, Whis' Coercion, Topo. You have access to a lot of really strong defensive cards. And so the typical boss monster that you're going to see most of the game is the Grand Evil Absorption Majin Buu. Dual attack, copy the effect of a Gohan underneath it. We have the Miraculous Comeback Son Gohan, we have the BCC Son Gohan, and now we're going to get the new Tournament Pack Son Gohan that allows you to draw 2 cards when you have 4 or less cards in your hand, and critical. So this guy is just going to be a monstrous attacker. You're going to get at least 2 swings from him, and you're probably already going to be awakened when this guy gets dropped because of the just sheer aggro of the format and aggro that this deck can put out. And then they're going to drop this Ultimate Evil Majin Buu for just 1 blue energy and discarding 2 cards. They can tap out with their Grand Evil Absorption Majin Buu and then still summon this because it'll restand itself and then gain 30,000 power. So after you just had to deal with whether it be 2 critical hits, 2 double striking hits, or 2 hits where they just drew 2 cards, this thing is going to come on for a 60k triple strike. So really strong boss monster going into the next format. It's just a great game closer. Make sure you hold your negate for this card. Then we have the Colossal Malice Harudegarn. This is a new boss monster coming out of set 4. A lot of people aren't really super sure if this card's going to be incredibly meta relevant, but I felt it deserved a mention because it is an incredibly strong card. You just have access to an infinite negate every turn, and when it comes back into play, you get to get rid of one of your opponent's battle cards and cards in their hand. So you really neg 1 your opponent after it's all said and done. But the Harudegarn strategy, where you're trying to establish this guy on the 7-drop, is a little bit slow for the format. So this card may see some play if a deck is able to slow down the game state enough. But I feel like this card was worth mentioning because I think you'll definitely see people tinkering with it since the new set is right around the corner. Then we have Perfect Force Cell. I think this is everyone's least favorite card on this list. The thing with this card is it's getting incredibly stronger with the creation of minus Killy Zone, because now Cold Bloodlust does not always answer Perfect Force Cell. So back in the older formats, we had this kind of triangle where it was like X deck being almost anything, and it was Cell Chain, because Cell Chain would almost guaranteed beat X deck, and then Cold Bloodlust Leader Y would be able to keep Cell Chain in check. But now that they have access to minus Killy Zone, that really isn't a super viable option. The Bullets is still going to be very good against Cell Chain, but now Cell Chain is going to have a way to just get around that, which is really unfortunate because Cell Chain is a very degenerate combo. But the other thing is, with the amount of aggro in this format, Cell Chain is going to have a lot of pressure on it before they can even get to the 7-drop Cell. So it may not see a lot of play, but it's definitely a boss monster worth mentioning. Then we have the secret rare Master Ultra Instinct Son Goku. This card is also kind of a degenerate card. A lot of decks just straight up lose to this card, unfortunately, because like certain colors like black, like red, they just don't have an answer to this card unless they splash something else in. So this card was involved in one of the top meta decks last format, in set 3 format, and it's still going to be a very strong card. The only other issue with the deck that usually plays it is that it is more of a slow deck. It needs to get to turn 4, preferably 5, to really ensure that its plays go off. So that could be a little bit too slow for this format, but this is definitely a very strong boss monster to watch out for come next format. Then we have the new baby card, the Epochal Grudge Grade 8 Baby. So a lot of people are really liking this card coming into the new format with the use of like Baby Leader or Dr. Mew. And this card is very strong, and it's as early as it is a turn 4 play, but it's got great payoff. So when this card attacks or your opponent plays a battle card, if your leader card is a machine mutant, draw 1 card, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it loses 20k power for the duration of the turn. So realistically, most drops your opponent has, they're just going to die immediately when you have this thing on the board, and you're going to keep drawing cards. So this guy is actually a really strong boss monster. It could be an argument this is also too slow for the format, but I digress, because I think a lot of these decks are going to play cards that kind of help them make it to the later turns in the game. So I think it's a very strong boss monster going forward. Then we have the 2 Super Saiyan 4 Son Gokus. So the Triple Flash Son Goku is the new 7-drop EX Evolve coming out of the set 4 Colossal Warfare. This thing just has way too many effects. It's such a great boss monster. It's the win condition of that new SS3 GT deck. So what this thing does is it EX Evolves for 1 red. Notice how they're taking away discards from EX Evolves. That's really borderline broken, because it's just way too free. But 1 red over a 5-drop Son Goku. It has Deflect, so it cannot be affected by counterplay cards like Cold Willis or Crusher Ball. And it has Triple Strike, so it's a game closer when your opponent's 3 or less life. When you play this card, draw 2 cards, and you may not activate EX Evolve for the duration of the turn. Honestly, this is a pretty insane effect, because usually EX Evolve costs you cards out of your hand, but this one they decided to not even give a discard cost and just said draw 2 cards. It's really strong. And then if this card's power is 40k or more, your opponent may not activate counter during battles where this card is attacking. So it's almost similar to the Awakened Son Goku in a sense, the Victory Striker, because this thing is actually different because your opponent cannot even activate counter. So you cannot like Mafuba it and then get away with it because of resolving as much as possible. You can't even activate Mafuba in response. So if they're able to boost this thing up enough, you have no shot of negating it at all. You'd have to hopefully have a blocker or something along those lines in order to hopefully survive this thing's attack. And then this thing is more of a tech than anything, I think, but this is the secret rare out of set 3. This guy, if you evolve him, let's say over the Triple Flash Son Goku, and your opponent's at, let's say, like 1 life, you can swing this thing and try and just deal them effect damage to win the game. But I think that this is a little bit more of just a tech in some decks, and this is going to be the main focus of that SS3 GT deck. But incredibly strong boss monster to look out for going forward. Now we're moving over to yellow. We have the absolute Grade Ape King Vegeta. So this card's a huge fan favorite. People really love their ape decks. I am one of those people. This card just does way too many things. It's definitely a busted card. So it evolves for 3 over King Vegeta, so you can drop it as early as turn 4. Turn 3 if you are playing SS3. It has a permanent, all yellow sands in your battle area, gain barrier, so that's usually going to be all of your monkey blockers. So your opponent's not going to be able to pick your board apart, really, without attacking. And reduce the combo cost of all sands in your hand by 1. So notice it's not even all yellow sands, it's all sands. So things like Unbreakable Spirit Son Goku, the Freehan if you're playing Super Saiyan 3 leader, and like Son Goten Family of Justice all become free when this guy's on the board. So this guy is definitely a giant boss monster. It's very hard to get around apes when they've established this guy. And this is going to be a very strong deck going forward because SS3 and yellow together creates some of the best stall the game has to offer. Then we have the Frieza Emperor of Universe 7. You usually find this guy in tandem with the Son Goku, the Awakened Power. This guy offers the Universe 7 deck an alternate win condition where you can basically make your opponent unable to play because they can't afford to crit their own lives, or they just put themselves in lethal range by trying to remove this guy. So he EX evolves over the Cold-Hearted Strike Frieza, and he has Triple Strike, so he's a great game closer. And he has a permanent. If your leader card is yellow, your opponent's counter skills and non-keyword autos / activate skills cannot be activated unless they place one card from your life in the drop area. So basically, it makes all your opponent's autos optional, but they can't activate them unless they want to crit themselves one. So this guy is a very, very strong boss monster. Once again, the format's going to be a little slow, so getting to this guy could be a little tough, but I digress. Still, in my opinion, one of the best boss monsters on this whole page. Then we have the Height of Mastery Son Goku and the Distant Descendant Son Goku Jr. So these guys are going to be the boss monsters of the new Lineage decks coming out. Height of Mastery Son Goku, in my opinion, is a beast because it has a flex, so it cannot be negated or Crusher Balled. It has Triple Strike and Dual Attack, so it swings for 6 damage on its own with a huge, huge body. And you play this card using Swap, you can basically make SS3 tap out. But realistically, you can make any deck tap out and or tap out all its blockers. So this card is actually insane in those types of situations. And the Son Goku's Lineage leader actually has great access to a negate like instant transmission, which actually doesn't require you to need energy. And if you play your game correctly, you'll play a whole bunch of stall like Roshi's and your combo into play Friezas. So this deck, I think, doesn't have too much of a hard time getting into the late game. But yeah, I think this is going to be really strong. And then I think the Secret Rare Son Goku Jr. is going to be cute. I think it's a very good card, but the thing with Ultimate is that it's unsearchable in the deck because you can't search it with Planet Vegeta and you can't search it with your Successor of Hope. So this card will be cool. If I get a copy of it, I'll definitely play it in my Lineage deck. But yeah, this card is not necessary to the win con of the deck, but a very scary monster nonetheless. Then for the last 2 cards on this list, we have Absolute Justice Jiren and Jiren Universe's Strongest. So a lot of people really, really enjoy the Jiren deck, and I can see why. It just is all about beatdown. You drop a ginormous boss monster at the end of it that has a huge payoff if you can reach its conditions. And the really, really great thing about the Jiren deck as well is that just like the SS3 yellow deck, it has access to excellent stall. So you have things like Roshi, you have things like Nimbus. The Jiren leader has access to Coquette Zone, which is almost a Nimbus in some cases, but doesn't cost you another yellow card. Then you have your Dispos. So you have a whole lot of ways to stall on the deck to get to your win condition. So this Absolute Justice Jiren has Quadruple Strike, which we don't see a whole lot in the meta, except for really the Jiren deck. So it can swing at an Awakened Leader at 4 life and just close the game out right there. And then this guy, you reduce the energy cost of him by 1 for each Universe 11 in your battle area. So if you're playing a Swarm strategy, this guy is going to become a 5-drop. When you play this card, choose all of your opponent's battle cards and energy in rest mode and place them in the drop area. So if your opponent decided to be gutsy and tap out against you, you just really, really punish them for it. And in this format we're coming into, there's going to be a lot less board clear in my opinion. So this guy's strategy of swarming the board is going to be a lot more efficient, I think. Then we have the new SR coming out of set 4, which is Jiren Universe's Strongest. So it's 12 drop that requires 6 yellows, has Deflect, Quadruple Strike again, and then permanent. When there are 9 or more Universe 11s in your drop area, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 6. So it's a little bit harder to pull off because it requires a lot of cards in your drop, and at the same time you can't really play a whole lot of Overwhelm. But the payoff is pretty huge because during battles when this card attacks, your opponent may not activate counter or blocker. So if you can get this guy for 6, you can almost guarantee game because he cannot be Crusher Balled, he cannot be Cold Blasted, he cannot be countered, and he cannot be blocked. So this guy, if you can get it off, is going to win you the game guaranteed. So guys, that was my video on the top boss monsters going into set 4. Please let me know what you think. Any disagreements, thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, things you want to see in the future, please let me know. If you like this video, please like our page. Please subscribe if you feel so inclined. That would be excellent. I'd be super, super happy about that. But yeah, this has been Joey from Colossal TCG, and we'll see you next time.